Happy 250th anniversary of the United States from the Notitleshow to begin with. My name is Henry. If you don't know who I am, whew, I don't know how you don't know that, because that means you're either an outsider, which is how we click on this, or you've subscribed to me without knowing who I am. Both albums are very weird. In any case, I like to reflect on the United States as we enter a 250th year. And no, I'm not going to do some doomer bullshit where it's like, well, we're the Romans that died. Who cares? Who the hell cares? No, my point is going to be about partisan politics. And I'm going to talk about it because about 2 weeks ago, I was part of this referendum in my town. If you know where I live, you know where I live. I don't think I need to say that. Try and look it up anyway. I live in a small Jersey town, whatever. To change from a partisan government for town elections, where you have, John Democrat and Joe Republican on the ballot, to nonpartisan system where you have Joe and John. You choose based on that. And we lost by 50 votes. I was very pro the referendum, and it just made me reflect in America, right? We never really intended to have these factions. Well, depending on who you are. Madison, I don't know if you know this, actually advocated for factions, but he believed this Republican form of government would be able to manage the factions instead of them becoming these dirty, partisan, petty politic groups that we know most today. Right. Washington was very much against factions. I don't know if you know this. It's kind of well known, but a lot of people don't know this. In his farewell address, he literally said, we shouldn't have political parties. They're a scourge in our nation. They're all basically going to spend, when they're not in power, they're going to try to fuck the guy in power. And when they're in power, they're just going to try to undo everything the last guy did. And it's just been this vicious cycle that never ends. And you see that play out today. You see what Washington said play out today. Right? And we had a chance as a town to get rid of that. And I was literally campaigning, going door knocking with my Republican mayor. And I'm a Democrat, right? Because the whole point was that it didn't matter that he's Republican and I'm a Democrat. Who cares? Right? The whole point of that town politics, you should vote for the person, not the party. What do you care? The support of Kamala Harris is not going to affect their management of the town. And I was getting driven around by the chair of the local Republican Party. These people that, in a normal situation, I would, not vote for. I would detest as, the national brand, right? But when it comes to local politics, and really all politics, it shouldn't, the only thing, the party label shouldn't be the only thing that matters. You should look at experience, you should look at their actual ideology, which is not just the party label. Think about the Democratic Party. It's the same party that has Joe Manchin as AOC. If you're going to say there's one Democratic Party that means all these things, when you have so many different people in the party, but some people think it should be, right? That's the even crazier part, where you have, a party, this is more the Republican Party. It's you're going to vote this way or you're out. And, look what happened to Bill Cassidy. Bill Cassidy was very loyal to the Trump presidency. I don't know how much you know about this. He's a senator from Louisiana, extremely loyal, voted for all the shit he wanted, but he voted to impeach him in 2021, 5 years ago. 5 years ago. And the party took revenge on him, and he got third place in a top 2 primary. And so now he's not even going to be in the Senate anymore, because I think he did 5 years ago. That's how loyal you have to be to a party. What is the point of that? Where you're not even allowed to have independent thought within a party. Right? The last independent president we've had is George Washington. Right? Theodore Roosevelt ran as independent, sure. But the last actual independent we had was George Washington. And he was against political parties, obviously. Now he was a little tilt to the Federalist side. And sure, you can have biases and tilts, but we shouldn't have to be in a political party. And if we do, can there be more than 2 options? And if you remember, I made a film called Election Day, where the whole thing is that this guy has to choose between Jack Jackson and John Johnson. These guys both suck, right? That's the whole point. We have 2 choices. They're usually not the greatest. They're not the brightest. We have one president, right? Why can't we pick the best person among all of us? Regardless of their views on right? And the idea that we're loyal to a party instead of people, instead of the whole country. And then also a terrible incentive structure when you have a 2-party system. Because the incentive is, let's say, we'll do it very specific. Biden was in power. He's a Democrat. Ooh, they're a Democrat, right? If I'm a Republican, the incentive is not to work with him to better the economy, to fix healthcare, to fix childcare, to fix healthcare. I said healthcare twice. To fix healthcare, to fix housing, to fix childcare, to fix education, to fix the debt problems, right? The incentive is not to fix anything. The incentive is to fuck everything up. The incentive, if I'm in the Republican Party, is to make sure the economy is as bad as possible on election day so Biden loses. And the same thing now, right? The incentive for the Democrats now is to fuck up the economy, right? We have, this terrible, right, gas prices spike. The Democrats are the last people that are going to help fix it, even though maybe they know how to fix it. Maybe they know the way. Why would they help them? Because in the midterms, you want the economy as bad as possible. So people say, well, the Republicans are in charge and things are bad, so let's give the Democrats votes. Now, obviously, the Democrats don't really have the ability to enact policy, but they do have the ability to work on bipartisan policy if they wanted to, right? In the filibuster, here's another thing. The filibuster requires bipartisanship in a system where you're not really going to get bipartisanship. A two-party system, I think, doesn't get bipartisanship because you have two parties on purpose, right? Why would they work together when you have to, I guess? And the only way for them to pass something, really, besides, the small amount of money bills that are allowed without the filibuster, you need 60 Senate votes instead of 50. And the last person that had 60 in their own party was Obama in 2010, and that's how they got Obamacare. They had to squeeze it past that because they had 6 senators, right? So unless, we get another thing like that, which is very rare, you're going to basically have to get Democrats and Republicans in the room and go, ugh, when the incentives are so they don't work together. And that's why you don't have, bills on health care or child care or housing or, there's so many problems. Or, why haven't we raised the minimum wage in 19 years, right? Why can members of Congress trade stocks while in office? Are we kidding me? Why can a member of Congress lobby the branch of Congress they were in a year ago? How is that not a lifetime ban? How are there no term limits? That's separate. But still, right? We don't work together because we're so busy trying to make sure the other guy looks as bad as possible so we get the other spot. At the very least, if we go nonpartisan, which I know is a hurdle, we go multipartisan. Look at Germany. I'm not saying Germany's the best country, and I see German political history wasn't exactly spotless. But the post-World War II German system was expertly designed to prevent what happened in Weimar Germany, preventing Hitler, right? The whole point was to prevent that again. And I think it's very genius. It's just the concept of multiparty democracy, where you have, right, here's in Germany. I don't know, again, you probably don't know much about Germany. If you're still watching this, I'm very surprised. But again, you have the SPD, which is the equivalent of Democrats. The CDU, which is the equivalent of Republicans, right? So center left, center right. Then you have the left, which are just socialists, right? It's the equivalent of the Working Families Party, the DSA. Oh my God. Then you have the Greens, equivalent of our Greens, except our Greens kind of suck and they don't actually do anything at the local level. Whatever. Then you have the FDP. It's kind of hard to explain. Classic liberals, I guess. Libertarians. I don't know. Then you have the AFD, which is the equivalent of the Trump Republicans, right? So you have the Republican Party and the Trump Republicans. And they're very, far right. And then you have the BSU, I think it's called. BDU? BSW? I think it's BSW. And it's just one girl. And it's named after her. Let me look it up. BSW Germany. It's the Sarah, Wagenknecht Alliance. Named after the girl Sarah Wagenknecht. And they didn't get enough votes. But if you get 5%, your party gets seats. That should be how it works anywhere, right? If 5% of the country votes for you, you should be in power. You should have at least a little influence. And then what happens is that you get coalitions of parties that in the U.S. would hate each other, right? Right now, the coalition is their equivalent of the Democrats and Republicans. They sign an agreement. They work together on things. They have a majority and actually pass it. I would suggest no party on the ballot, but probably not going to happen, right? So here's what I do. You have multi-member districts, and you have proportional representation. The way we do that is called single transferable vote. Very wonky. I'm not going to get into it. The main premise is that you get at least more than one representative per your district. So you're not just voting for one. And you get to rank all your choices. So it encourages more proportional representation than right now. The system we have right now is directly designed to lead to a two-party system. Sorry, not one, to a two-party system. You could change the incentives. By the way, this could be done by a bill, not by constitutional amendment. Expand the size of the House. We're capped at 435. If you're watching Mr. Beat video, that's all he talks about nowadays. We're artificially capped. If we passed an amendment in the first one of the Bill of Rights, we would have about 6,000 seats. That's what the framers wanted. We don't have to go 6,000. Can we go 1,000? Can we go 2,000? Expand it a little bit. Maybe not 2,000, but still, expand it. A term limit, we need to do it. Get money out of politics, right? The fact that, people can spend money, you don't even know who spent it, on candidates. They can spend as much as they want as long as they don't coordinate with it. Get that out of there. Get that right out of there, right? At the very least, if we can't, because that's an amendment, right? if we can't pass the amendment, make it disclosed. Make a website where you can see exactly who spent it. Kind of like the political integrity index, right? But make it so like official and obvious to anybody, and make it embarrassing for corporations to spend money. Make it like so they don't want to. And yeah, I think like if you're in like a political party, you need to talk to people in the other party. Jesus Christ, get out of the fucking echo chamber, get out of your bubble, and talk to them. You're not gonna love what they say because they're also in a bubble. They're also gonna be hostile. You're not gonna love it, but you gotta at least understand their perspective, even if it's only to win. Understand where they're coming from, and if you want to get like a broad understanding of America, as it is, you need to understand the Trump voters who make up about a third of the country. They're not like these small minority that barely they elected the fucking president, right? You need to understand how they operate. And yeah, I think for the 250th, I wanted to make a little video, just to say I was here. I was here for the big 250, have thoughts, and my main thought was that we're doing well, but we're missing something. And that this is something that even many of the founders, obviously not all, again, Madison, disagreed, we didn't want to see these political parties. They are not doing well for the nation. We have this very heated debates online, and like they become toxic, this discussion. Basically, the discourse is toxic, I think, because of these political parties, right? And if we could just go to a system where we have everyone's involved, and you're not just going for the lesser two evils, and we're not just saying, oh, well, if we're not in power, we're going to fuck things up, where the incentive is coalition rather than obstruction. Ooh, that was a good rhyme. We want to have everyone's voices heard and not just the rich, right? If we lower corruption, increase choices, help people out, I think we can see, hopefully, America 300 is a lot better than 250. What's new with me? I'm in a Substack. I guess I like that, where I talk about a lot of politics. If you thought it was interesting, I do a lot of similar rants on text form. NYU's going good this summer. Got some big things going on. Maybe I'll put a few projects up that I worked on. That's really it. Happy 250th. And we'll close this out.